this is Chad from Zombie Fight Shark. Welcome to episode 16 of our Complex-1 synthesizer complete walkthrough series. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the Sequencer and Note Quantizer. And if you're just tuning in, we have talked about everything else above that, clocks and all the other modules above it, in previous episodes. So if that's what you're looking for, roll those back. Let's get into the Sequencer and Note Quantizer. So here's a fun little one, just to show an example of something you can do with this. And this is a confusing one. I am not gonna lie. It was confusing to me, took me a little bit to understand it, and took me a lot of messing around with it to be able to use it effectively. And you have to think of it in terms of it's kind of multiple things at once. So let's start at the top. So you see step right here, and this step, each one of these rows is a step, right? So which I've drawn into this pattern, but each one of those is a step. To advance these steps, you have to trigger them. So you can trigger them with the clock over here like I've done, or you can trigger them with every note you play if you want, or you can trigger them with an LFO, or any of the other things you could potentially route to step. Keep in mind, to get this to play, step has to be activated some way. And typically, sequencer, you're going to want it to play in time. So the most common way to activate it is going to be through the clock and LFO. So that's your guy's step, right? Then reset is it's the same function that you have in LFO and other places to start the loop over, to start the sequence over. Depending on what you have playing, if you want some particular, you want an LFO to trigger it, whatever, same kind of deal. So like right now, it's just kind of in a constant loop. Now I'll route gate. So you can see why that might be useful. So the sequencer here, like I said, you got the steps across the top. You've got this is the curve, actually. These blue lines are the curve. And then the bottom is the gate, right? So as you can see here, you can do whatever. And so that gate can go out to any number of things. So there you go. It's on a loop. And the gate from the sequencer is controlling the volume of that white noise. And so this would be where, if I want to use that reset, keep stuff in time, gives you, you're starting to see one more, it's one more gate to control other things. Moving along, then you got the curve. It didn't really make much sense for me to run the gate over there, so just forgive me on that one. I will run the curve over there though. So we'll do that same thing we just did. So we run white noise over here, and then we're going to use this curve. The blue lines is the curve. is going to affect your noise color amount, right? Or actually, rather than doing, let's do, just so we get, there we go. So there it is. And you I didn't mention it before, but yeah, your steps, you know, if you don't need all the steps, all you gotta do is click up here, you know, fewer steps. And when you're playing with the gate, you can see how this is clickable, and then you can also click and drag to make it one. The gate stays open for that full time. So, yet again, just a different way to manipulate these sounds. So you can, and then we're just, I mean, we're so far, this is just scratching the surface, really. So make it as musical as you want to make it, and you know, curve, it's another, you know, you can make that curve whatever you want to make it, to manipulate something else, you know, to manipulate shape, to manipulate the comb delay, you name it, you know. It's just another routable control voltage. Offset is a little bit of a confusing one, and you see that you can run something into it and then it affects the range of the note. So there's kind of a lot going on there. So let's run something obvious into it. We'll run a slow square wave into offset. So before I do that, okay, so that's what it's doing. Now we're going to run this slow square wave into it. And it's messing with the range right here. So this range is directly related to the this keyboard right here, which is the notes that you want a pre-programmed sequence to play. So just for example, so that was like, it was in like E flat major chord. So now if I make it, now it's a C major scale, right? It's not a perfect C major scale, but pretty close. Within here, if the range is set to 48, so 48 steps, which means that at the bottom is the lowest note, at the top is the highest note. Think of a keyboard, lowest note to the highest note, 48, and if it were, you know, half a keyboard. So every one of these is a, you know, a different key, which can be hard. You can program this to you know, play an exact sequence, and there are many examples of that. But it's tough when you get this range really big. So you kind of have to, you know, pick your battles, which is why you'll see a lot of stuff where it's just like, it's a chord. So now let's go all the way. And so this is playing basically the full range of the keyboard, but it's only playing these notes on the keyboard. So C, E, G, and B. C major 7 chord. And So your range is just controlling, you know, how many octaves is it going to do, or how, not even necessarily octaves, because it doesn't have to be octaves. It can. Now going back to the offset, you run this offset to it, and it affects this range. And and it does weird stuff when you do a non-constant modifier. So this ramp, here it's going to go wackadoo. Because it's constantly changing the range, because this constant increase here, this ramp going up, is constantly changing the range. And as that range goes up, then these notes are slipping around in real time from one place to the next. You can do some really interesting stuff with this. It just, you know, this is one of those you really have to kind of think on a little bit. And so going back to now, we know what offset does. It's affecting the range. We know what the range does. It's the notes that it's going to play on the keyboard that you've selected here, and how many octaves it's going to play them in. And then this is the output. Note is the output for that portion of all of it. So, and you can see here that I've routed it to pitch. And this is the master pitch. So it's playing this oscillator 1, and that is the Sequencer Note Quantizer. I'll do another example here. So this is a little bit simpler example, and maybe it'll make more sense. But let's just break down what I've done with it here. So I've used my clock to activate my steps, so you can see, so it stays in time. The gate is running out of the sequencer to the ADSR envelope, which is controlling the volume right here. So that's the red squares across the bottom. So over here on noise, I've run the band noise over to scale and amp. And then the curve here, I have it running two different places. I have the curve running to the noise here for the noise color amount. Then I also have the curve running over here to scale and amp. So meaning these values are moving this knob around, even though you can't see it. That's what it's doing. And then these values are also controlling the level of the notes. So you're getting a little bit more organic of a play and natural sounding, rather than super mechanical. So nothing going on with the notes here, but just for fun, just to see what it does. If I ran, what is it? It's got 3 notes here. What's the range? Set to 24, so 2 octaves. And I will run this just 1 here. So again, pitch is being controlled by these keys, and just to show how this will change it, add some extra notes, change it around, and now we got different notes like that. And then you can change the octave just like that. So now it's a wider spectrum. And then the gate is controlling the ADSR trigger. So that's where we're getting this. So it's a nifty, you got a nifty little loop going there. And that is just an example of, you know, it's Complex-1 is a monophonic synthesizer, meaning one note at a time, but because of all its routing abilities, the oscillators can play on their own, independently of one another, creating all manner of unique textures and soundscapes. So this has to almost be thought of as an oscillator all its own, or as a machine all its own in the modules. In the next episode, we'll talk about the Quantizer 2 module here, which is, you know, kind of related obviously to the Sequencer Note Quantizer. So thank you for your eyes and ears. If you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you did not understand something or something did not make sense, and I will try to address it. I'll do my best to address it. And thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Cheers.